Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I think probably you've all heard the atrocities which are going around, and there is no need to actually repeat the situation in that respect. I just concentrate on what has happened and what we see during this week, at least. The general issue with regard to the, if you look at the right-wing media, if you look at what the states are saying, they tend to have an origin point, and the origin point is Saturday, 7th of October, as if everything suddenly starts from that time. In reality, that's not the case. The situation has been going on for over 70-odd years, and this was a boiling point. What is not an issue, I think that is the main point, is the issue is not that of Hamas and that of the Israeli state. The issue is the issue of Palestine. I think the world is, generally speaking, insofar as at least the working class and civilized humanity is concerned, is divided along the line of Palestine and the issue of Palestine and that of Israel and that of to a large extent, I could say, Western states. The issue has been all the time with regard to what happens to these people. The Gaza is just showing the boiling point of the situation rather than actually being the starting point. Over these many years, these many decades, we've seen huge pressure and discrimination, exploitation, total embargoes, and everything else that has happened in Gaza. The issue with regard to embargo on Gaza, in many respects, again, has not started since the attack of Hamas, but it has been there before. Similarly, the attack on the hospital of Al-Nahar wasn't actually happening just roughly about 20 hours ago, but it has happened before. 2 days ago, there was a bomb, and the wing of the hospital was bombed. Similarly, the school and everything else. So it has been a recurring issue. I think that is definitely given. The issue is, why did Hamas start it? Probably that's one question. The other question is, what was the expectation? Everybody knew militarily Hamas cannot actually gain any military advantage. That was definitely obvious. Against the might of Israeli military, it was impossible for Hamas to make any headway. So the question is, why did they do it? And the issue was political. There have been changes, and these changes have happened across the world, and to a large extent across Middle East we see it. The world as we knew it, the world of single pole, the US, the gendarme of the area, doing anything he wants, and all of the states, the reactionary states in the region, saying yes to whatever the US says, that era has passed. That has gone. Second thing that has gone is the presence of the idea that there is an issue of Palestine which can continuously be abused. And I say abused because all the reactionary forces in the area, a variety of states, whether armed or unarmed, they all use the issue of Palestine in their advantage. The idea was they were prepared to do anything, any deals, any negotiations, any killing, anything could go on under the banner of the issue of Palestine. Whether for it, under the pretext of that, we had Islamic Jihad, we've had a variety of other groupings from Hezbollah right to the end of Hamas and all of the rest, or whether we had the political states, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and all of them, who actually kept on abusing the issue of Palestine. And this issue has changed because what has happened in the region, and we saw this as from about 3-4 years ago, was a huge protest which was taking place across the region. We saw it in Lebanon, we saw it in Iraq, and also we saw it in Palestine. And this issue was that the people in the area were having enough, that they didn't want to have a system enforced on them, which they didn't want to accept. And this has been in the whole area. This also happened in the occupied territories. And in all of those areas, we had protests against Hamas, because Hamas was actually the main power in Gaza. We had it in the area of West Bank, where the Mahmoud Abbas self-governing body is ruling. And there has been similarly, we have seen the issue in Israel to some extent. This has been boiling over to the extent that the Western states, to a large majority, they decided to actually recognize one rather than the other. Israel actually made use of the same scenario. Israel, in opposition to the two-state scenario, was actually trying to make more room for Hamas in order to make Mahmoud Abbas a little bit less of an issue. And also we had the situation with regard to the recent negotiations that you have seen, for example, in China's deals, in the BRICS. Mahmoud Abbas was invited. There was no mention of Hamas or any presence of Hamas, and Hamas was feeling that they are actually left out of the negotiations. So we had also the scenario that Hamas was feeling quite marginalized, and this was a gamble. Hamas took a gamble. Attack is not new. The issue that was new is the scenario that is, or the situation that this attack is taking place in. Changing the world, changing the situation of the whole Middle East, and also, alongside of it, marginalization of Hamas. And Hamas took a gamble in order to present itself as a political force that cannot be left out. And this was one of the main reasons that Hamas actually started this attack. Whether to what extent the Israeli security forces were aware or unaware is irrelevant. But they were banking on this issue. And like before, like all the other states in the area, the life of the Palestinians in the region was totally assumed to be part of the collateral damage. And this literally gave the reason why Hamas actually thought they could get somewhere. And to be very honest with you, the gamble paid off. The gamble paid off that now Hamas cannot be ignored. Not militarily, but as a physical force, as a force that can say, I am standing against Israel, and try to make itself in a better position than it was before. And that has occurred. From that point of view, Hamas considers this as a win, even if they have lost hugely militarily. From the point of view of people of Palestine, the issue is neither the further gain of Hamas or less gain of Hamas. They are actually being sacrificed in the middle, and Israel is making use of this. Israel is making all its attempts in order to ensure that they gain more territory, that they are able to change the scene as if they are fighting a terrorist organization, and therefore they are right to self-defense and can do anything they want to. But the people in Palestine, throughout these protests that we have seen recently, have said the issue is not the issue of self-defense of Israel. Every state has the right to self-defense. This is not something which is a monopoly of Israel. This is a pretext that is used in order for Israel to actually carry out all its atrocities. The extent of the atrocities is huge. It is not just the case that we see what is partially shown on TV, but it's more the case of the actual situation on the ground. For example, the idea is that they said they attack a hospital. Red Cross had told people, in order to be safe, you can go to the hospital. Estimates are thousands. One estimate was 30,000 people were in the vicinity of the hospital when it was bombed. And you've seen the news of it, that 1 minute you see your family in front of you, next minute you don't see them. That's it. The idea was that Israel said initially that this was a rocket attack by Hamas that gone wrong. Immediately they had to withdraw that. Then they said it's Islamic Jihad, and then they had to withdraw it. They published several videos, and it was then made clear that the videos do not belong to today, or actually yesterday, but the videos belong to 2014 and then 2022. So they had to take it off. Then Israel put out a lot of videos which had no sound. And the only video that was made available was the one that was clarified and authenticated by Washington Post and New York Times that actually had an audio sound. And the sound of the audio suggests it is a bomb coming from a phantom jet. So therefore, Israel is the only party that can have that power in order to do that. None of the other forces in the area have that power or that ability to be able to actually make such a huge change. Rockets go on killing 5, 10, 15 people, but breaking a hospital of that size and obviously making such a huge impact is not something that is precedented. The only way that could happen is through a major number of bombs from the fighter jet. And this is what has come up, and immediately you saw the changes of the stories, and Israel stated that we need to investigate further. Joe Biden went to Israel today. As soon as he landed, he said, initially, from what I have seen, just a few hours before that, the White House said, we need to investigate. But as soon as the plane landed, Joe Biden said, no, I have looked at the videos, and the videos have shown me that the actual bombing belongs to the other team. And the other team is certainly not Israel. And effectively, he has said that he has made the decision. And the decision is that it doesn't matter what Israel does, they can go ahead. The extent of the atrocity, the anger that it has fueled, has been so much that we see protests across Tunisia, we see protests across Jordan, we see protests in a number of other countries, and they all are saying the issue is atrocity of Israel, which must end. And this has been a major upset in the whole scenario. Biden did not expect this. He wanted to go in and just make a deal and claim that there has been a victory. That did not materialize. The extent of the protest on the ground was so high that we started seeing in Ramallah, where the Mahmoud Abbas self-governing body is there. Protests started yesterday on wide scale. The protesters went on and said, we want resignation of Mahmoud Abbas. And as soon as they said, we want resignation of Mahmoud Abbas, the actual security forces of the self-governing body of Palestine and Mahmoud Abbas started tear gases on the people, and they tried to push them back. This protest then turned not as simple as they wanted it to be. The protest continued. We saw some more protests today, a lot less attack from the police in the self-governing body. And they are saying, when this atrocity is taking place, to what extent can it carry on? One. Two, what we see is a total failure of the party of the self-governing of Palestine, because all they do is they seem to be sitting down talking in corridors, in UN, etc., which has not borne any fruit. We're still seeing the bombing and we're still seeing the atrocities. They say that irrespective of what Hamas had done, we're still seeing the continuation of the atrocities. And irrespective of all of the claims of the reactionary states in the region, we're still seeing the atrocities. And as a result, these people are just standing there, 2 million something, the most populated area in the whole world. They just held in a corner, and is phosphor bombs coming down left, right, and center. They've been bombing yesterday, they were bombing today, and even the extent of the bombing does not seem to be the case that they just drop a bomb. One of the eyewitnesses in the area was saying that they actually are at home, and suddenly bombs come down, and imagine a population where about 60 to 70% of it is under the age of 18. And all the kids, they are in home and there's bombardment, and they can't do anything. They can't go anywhere, there's lack of food, it's total embargo. Egypt has not reached a deal with Israel because what they want to do is they want to avoid a scenario of mass migration into Egypt. Israel is trying to push them. There are about 7 gates that people can actually use to come out of Gaza. One of them is with Egypt. The other 6 is in the hand of Israel. And Israel is not opening any of them. So there is no medication going. There is no food going in. There is no water going in. And there is nothing going in. And everybody knows the situation is immensely dire. And it's just massacre. And the whole idea behind this is that Israel wants to show that it can go as much as it wants to, as the only state that does not have to follow any of the resolutions, international law, or anything else, and it can just go and kill. And this is a scenario that we are at. What should be done? Immediate cessation of the hostilities. Immediate. 2, immediate aid for the people in Gaza. And I mean immediate in the full extent of the word. What Biden has told today that we are going to think about it is not going to answer. 3, there's got to be an immediate stop to any continuation of revenge attacks, and obviously the holding of anyone who is partly, personally, partily, or whatever else involved should be brought to justice by the criminal court against the atrocities against humanity. And this involves not just the states of Israel, not just such states as Germany, whose main chancellor went to Israel yesterday and said the Palestinians are like Nazis, and this Holocaust must be stopped, and all of these parties. And by the way, the name of Keir Starmer is also in the list of one of those who has been supporting this and therefore is being called into the International Criminal Court. This is the scenario, but it is dire. It needs to be done. Something needs to be done. The issue is not the states in the area. The issue is the issue of Palestine. Recognition of the right of the people of Palestine, removal of all of the military forces from the area, US and otherwise, and a complete return to at least the 1967 borders in order to ensure that this whole scenario stops. If it doesn't, if any of these are not done, this issue is like an old wound. It keeps cropping up, and it keeps cropping up, and it keeps escalating. So the only way to stop it is recognition of the two states, recognition of two equal states, not one in charge of the other, and also complete cessation and immediate aid for people of Gaza. And you see pictures of people coming from Lebanon, people coming from Egypt, crossing the desert with water tanks on their back, trying to get to Israel. And there are a huge number of convoys there ready to go in, but Israel is not allowing them to go in. And these actions of Israel is a massacre, and therefore it should be recognized accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is